All right, so normally I don't do movie reviews, but someone had asked me at one point to give my thoughts on Thunderbolts. And at first I thought that I'd be watching this maybe a year from now, long after it's been relevant, but I watched it tonight. So, here are my thoughts. Generally, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Um, I didn't mind that they killed off Taskmaster because, well, nobody was thrilled with that storyline. It's not that she was Taskmaster instead of Tony Masters. That doesn't bother me. What bothered me was the storyline behind it. It was not that she just had the ability to copy moves. It was just simply the fact that she was programmed that way. It was very bizarre. So, yeah, did not mind that they killed her off very early on. Um, so we see it starts with Yelena seemingly committing suicide, and it wasn't. It was just her doing her task. And it turns out she's actually telling her life story to a guy who she has tied up in a lab because she's trying to figure out how to deal with the face recognition software. Now, I don't know what happened to that scientist who she said, damn it, I needed that face because from what I could tell, nothing happened to said face. But anyway, um, so she just blows the lab up after saving the guinea pig. So, because if we know anything about Yelena, she loves animals. So, so yeah, that was the first. So then we see her, Yelena, Valentina at this impeachment hearing, and Bucky, they're making Bucky out to be incompetent as a congressman. But if you see what a lot of Congress people do when they're in these types of interviews, that's pretty much what you get, especially this this Republican Party as of 2025, where they know they can't actually defend their actions, so they basically do that. So it was meant to be funny, but fairly on point to the way some politicians talk when they really either don't want to reveal anything or just know that they can't defend whatever actions they're doing. So now this happened later on, but at the when Val basically welcomes them in, she said that Bucky didn't even make it half a term. So half a term would be a year. So he didn't even make a year. But when we last saw him, there was no indication that he was leaving Congress. Just that Mel wanted him to help with the situation with Bob and the fact that she didn't want to actually kill the Thunderbolts. She didn't want to do that. So now, why Mel is sticking with Val through all of this? Not a clue. I assume it's because she now has an in with Bucky. So, she can help keep an eye on Val, I guess. Because at the at the obviously by the end it's obvious that she's not getting impeached because she somehow managed to finagle it to make her look good. But as Yelena said, we own you. So we'll see how long that lasts. But so they have to clear everything out so they aren't caught and she isn't impeached. Now we know that she said the last president turned into a Red Hulk. So we know that this is post Captain America Brave New World, but we don't know who the president is now. We have absolutely no clue. We don't know if there was another election or considering Bucky was already. Now, I think she said at the time senator in Brave New World. But I could be wrong. And congressman makes more sense if he didn't make it half a term. Because senators, I think, are 6-year terms? 8 years? Something like that. But anyway, I only vote. I'm only an American citizen. Why should I know how long a senator's term is for? Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's 6 years. I know it's not 4. I know it's more than 4. I think it's 6 years. I'm pretty sure it's 6 years. But anyway, so yeah, that's a little confusing. If I remember Brave New World, and I literally just watched it last week, so why should I freaking remember? Anyway, so you can tell Mel is uncomfortable with what she's doing. They are at a party, at a gala event, which she's using to try to get goodwill. Because, reminding people of the Avengers and, that, like she said at the hearing, that the Avengers aren't coming to save us. There are no Avengers at this time. And you can see that Bucky's like, maybe we should put one together. Which, yeah, Sam was tasked to do that. Obviously, he hasn't done it at this point. So, I mean, we know is that he put Torres on the team. We know that. That was after the end of Captain America Brave New World that happened. But we don't know who else he put on the team. Or how long after that this takes place. But like I said, the fact that he was already a congressman in Brave New World and now he's not, I can't imagine it was that long. Because like I said, a House of Representatives term is 2 years. So less than a year. But like I said, when did that happen? Because we went from he's in Congress, we don't hear anything about him being kicked out, and suddenly doesn't survive a term. I guess because he kind of went Winter Soldier to get Val? I'm really not sure where that happened. But Bucky tries to talk to Mel about the Avengers and, doing the right thing and, giving him something he can use against Val. And she mentions that she was a teenager during the Battle of New York. And Bucky's like, yeah, I was 90. So for those who are keeping track, he's 110 now. So this was 20 years ago. And so we have an idea of how old Mel is. She's somewhere in her 30s. So he decides Mel tells him a little bit about what's going on. He's attempting to do the right thing by reading the packet, and I don't know what he thought being in Congress meant. Now, granted, I think in real life, they have staffers to read shit for them. And I guess they give them the Cliff Notes, because generally they don't read these bills. They don't read packets. They just go, they have staffers for that. But I could be wrong about that, but generally that's what I'm hearing. So, she calls him. He's just reading and making a mess of the packet and his shirt and everything. Because, eating something messy while reading and wearing a nice shirt, always a good plan. So, we find out that Bucky washes his vibranium arm in the dishwasher, which makes sense because most metal would probably rust in a dishwasher, but this is vibranium, so of course that's fine. So, Mel has him track her phone because he's like, I don't do that anymore. It's like, why not? She's not asking you to go all Winter Soldier on anybody. She's just asking. I mean, the Wakandans call him White Wolf. It's not because he's passive and he's not a pacifist suddenly. He will fight when necessary, so that's why they gave him a vibranium arm. Not just so he can have two arms, but for a reason. So yeah, he hops on his motorcycle and manages to get to the 3 knuckleheads. Well, the 4 knuckleheads. And we already get a glimpse of what's going to happen later in the movie, where Yelena sees her having to kill her friend, which we relive later on, which I'm like, really? We couldn't have come up with 3 newer scenes? There were 2 new scenes, but why repeat that? Unless they're implying that this was a particularly traumatic event for her, which, fair, she had to kill her friend, so. But it's interesting that they have an actress playing her with red hair. When we saw her in the Black Widow movie, she had blonde hair. She has blonde hair now. I could understand that if this is supposed to be Natasha, because that girl looked more like Natasha than it did Yelena. So I was very confused. I mean, I knew it was supposed to be about Yelena, but it made no sense to me. So anyway, so we get a scene of her doing that. We get a scene of what actually happened, which is that once Walker lost his Captain America status because he just completely lost his shit and killed someone, he was in a deep funk And we've later learned from Bucky that his wife left and took their kid. Which, considering how he was actually paying attention to the kid, yeah, can't blame her. So, he decides that they're all going to help him bring in Val and apparently Bob. Because it started off with, I want you to testify to Congress about what you know. And everybody's like, nope, nope, nope. We just want to go home. We want nothing to do with this. It's like, when did you guys become chicken shit? Yelena's a freaking Black Widow. What does she think? I mean, yes, she knows about Bob, but apparently they established some sort of rapport. So if they make them romantically attached, I am going to lose my shit. Because in the comics, Yelena is supposed to be aromantic and asexual. So I'll absolutely have an attachment to Bob, but if it becomes romantic and especially sexual, yeah, I'm going to be very upset. Because not all relationships need to be like that. So yeah, I couldn't understand why everybody's like, nope, nope, nope. I mean, is it because they saw Bob fall from the sky and survive? I'm not sure that they're even aware at this point that he did survive. I thought that they were fuzzy about that. Until Mel called Bucky and basically confirmed what the rest were saying about Bob. And so it turned from, you're testifying to Congress, to, you're going to help me not only bring in Val, but deal with this Bob situation. Because, again, at this point, nobody truly understands how powerful he is. Which, at this point, the rest of them should know. Well, not Red Guardian, but those three should know, because it looked like he was killed by firing squad, and he obviously wasn't. So they have to know how powerful he is. And so they go to the Watchtower, the Avengers Tower, which was renamed the Watchtower by Val, which in the comics, Sentry, that's his base. He has his base on top of the Avengers Tower, which is the Watchtower. And yes, he's that mentally disturbed in the comics as well. So they, Val's like, come on up, because at this point, she sweet-talked Bob into helping her. And trying to convince him that, these are the bad guys. When he's like, I don't know, they're nice to me. So she's playing him, but we see a scene of how her father was killed. Apparently, she told an associate of his where to find him, which led to his death because said associate was pissed at him for something. So we saw a little bit of Val. And why she's as messed up as she is. And Mel is like, yeah, she's totally gone off the rails. And I'm like, you mean she hadn't before? Okay. So she's keeping Bucky informed. They go to the Watchtower to try to stop her. And she's like, yeah, just come on up. And Bob makes short work of everybody. even though it was reluctant. And he's just like, why do I have to kill them? They can't hurt me. Which, fair. Sounds perfectly reasonable. And Val tries to strong arm him, saying that, you go on the missions I tell you to go on because I'm your I'm the one who controls you or whatever. And he's like, wait a minute. But you said I have the power of a god. And she's like, no, I didn't. Yes, you said I'm as strong as all the Avengers combined, and one of them is a god. So, yeah. Bob may be mentally messed up and a drug addict. However, he is not an idiot. He's fully aware of who the Avengers are. So, he doesn't want to, not only does he not want to help her, he looks like he is going to kill her, which shocked the heck out of me. I really did not think he was going to do that. I really thought he was just going to, toss her aside like a rag doll and leave. Because, it's not like she can stop him. So, but because he does that, Mel was able to shoot him with the kill switch. Because Val was not able to do that. So later on, he is complaining that he does not want to turn into the Sentry because he's afraid of turning into the Void. Which, in the comics, that is a thing. So, yeah, totally understand. But it seemed like it wasn't that he turned into the Sentry that made him turn into the Void. It was the fact that he was shot with the kill switch. That turned him into the Void. So, a totally different scenario. Now, obviously with his amnesia, he's not aware that those two events happened, but by the end, it sounds like he got his memory back. So, he should know that. But, they need to sideline him somehow because otherwise he's too freaking powerful and he just would end up, there would be no movie because he would end up taking care of everything. So he turns into the Void and suddenly it seems like it's supposed to be that everyone vanishes, but it looked more like they were turned to ash. The way the special effects worked. It's like he was turning everything into ash, into darkness. So, Yelena walks in and Alexei is beside himself because this is his daughter. And he had just given that lovely speech about, how he didn't think that she wanted him around and how, he doesn't see her mistakes and reminded her why she wanted to be a goalie. And it was a very sweet speech. It was truly a dad's speech to his daughter. It was very sweet. And he's completely upset. And this is when we find out that, Walker fills everyone in on what happened with Bob and what the Void does. And so, like I said, we see images in Yelena's past. I'm kind of upset. I was hoping that they would show Bucky. Because they showed Yelena, they showed Walker. I was hoping that they would at least show Bucky. Not everybody has probably watched Winter Soldier because, again, not everybody watches every Marvel project. So, I haven't seen Winter Soldier. Or, I'm sure there was stuff that wasn't in Winter Soldier between that and the present day. So, they could have maybe they wanted to keep the movie around 2 hours. But I would have liked to have seen that. Maybe seen something more from Ava because she mentioned about her childhood. So it would have been nice to see images of that. So yeah, it I would have liked more. And because the next time we see them, they're helping Bob and Yelena. And they are like, okay, this is the nicest room. What's the worst? And this is where I didn't quite like the ending. I mean, I'm glad that they hugged Bob because he obviously needed a hug, but it just was unsatisfying. I mean, I get that they were trying to tell him to stop, that this is what the Void wanted, was for him to give in to his anger, give in to his grief, and beat the shit out of the Void, and in so doing become the Void permanently. But, and at first it seemed like they were just trying to stop him, but then it turned more into like a group hug. So, I don't know. I don't know. It just seemed like, one of them would have tried to get between him and the Void to try to stop him. It just seemed more like they were at this point just group hug as opposed to actually trying to stop him. So yeah, I was a little bummed out. I mean, I knew about the group hug, but I really thought it would be more, I don't know, believable. He was attacked by that chicken thingy, that costume that he used to wear, and that he would have been, scared so badly that would have caused the hugs, that it wouldn't be it just didn't seem to work for me. So then we had a mid-credit scene, which was Alexei, apparently the Thunderbolts got on the Wheaties box. Like I had said earlier, they became the new Avengers because Val, managed to get the press together and, basically was able to stop them from outing her, or at least arresting her. Bucky wanted to arrest her, Alexei wanted to hurt her. I mean, if not kill her, at least break a few bones, which, I mean, he is a super soldier. He could always accidentally break a few bones without trying. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, you can easily break bones depending on who you're trying to break the bones of, depending on how strong you are. Or how skilled you are, because martial artists. But, so I would think it would be double that, if not more, for a super soldier. And, so I did like how they worked as a team, even though they didn't intend to. Like when they were all pushing that slab of concrete. And each and everyone got the spotlight in saving people. I did enjoy that immensely. So, like I said, there was the mid-credit scene with the Wheaties box, and then the post-credit scene, which leads into Fantastic Four. And the fact that there's a copyright fight with Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. And you could tell during their scene that they're, I don't know. I wouldn't call them frenemies, but they don't seem to get along very well. But yet I'm pretty sure in Captain America Brave New World, he called him Buck, which Bucky made a big deal of in their show. Not to call him that only Steve gets to call him that. So either the writers of the movie didn't know about that, things changed, or I don't know. But so it's going to be interesting once we get to Doomsday, what's going to happen with who's going to be on Sam's team, what's going to happen with the Thunderbolts. I refuse to call them the New Avengers. And so yeah. Let's see if there's anything else I want. Bob, like I said, refuses to be the Sentry again because he's afraid of bringing out the Void. So I'm thinking that because he has his memory back, he should know that happened because of the kill switch, or at least the fact that someone shot at him. But regardless, he's afraid, so and what is Walker's obsession with pushing buttons? Both figuratively and literally. And plus, she's talking about space problems, Yelena is, and he's like, what? This place is huge. They're really making Walker out to be an absolute bimbo. He is an absolute moron. I mean, I realize that in Winter Soldier he was not the brightest bulb, but I think they're making him even dumber. It's really, like, he's so desperate to definitely throughout the movie, he was so desperate to seem relevant and seem knowledgeable that the girls were constantly making fun of him, which, fair. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention about the movie. Well, we do know that they're all going to be in Doomsday. The chair watch happened around the same time as the Thunderbolts are coming out. So, in the theaters, so there was kind of a spoiler in the fact that Taskmaster wasn't listed. So you knew that something was going to happen to her character. So you already knew that she was going to bite the dust. It just was a matter of how. And it's because of Ava. And I'm actually surprised at how cool Yelena was about her death. I mean, they kind of mentioned that, yes, I knew her. She did some bad things. Now she's dead. Considering how traumatic and how emotional when she lost her friend Anya. I just, was shocked that she was so nonchalant about losing her. Maybe because of who she was, but, she was put through a traumatic experience herself. Just because her father was an asshole doesn't mean that, you should just shrug your shoulders like, oh, well, she's dead, So that just didn't strike me as Yelena. Let's see, what else did I want to mention about this movie? Now, the only other thing is that we had a Black Widow, we had Ghost. So, another reason why to kill off Taskmaster, because she would literally be redundant because she would be fighting the way, in theory, she should be fighting the same way anybody else can fight. So, yeah. But she's also technically a Black Widow. So, yeah, we already have one of those. But 3 super soldiers? Granted, I love Alexei and I, of course, love Bucky. But, you know, that's just like overkill on super soldiers. So yeah, I can see why people were dubious about this movie. And then, of course, like a weekend, they're like, oh yeah, it's really the new Avengers, not the Thunderbolts. So we're confusing people now. Is it the Thunderbolts or the new Avengers? It was, yeah. Yeah, the marketing could have been better. Maybe, not have as many super soldiers because, that's why there are multiple teams in Marvel. Because there are, there's a super soldier or a god or, but there's always certain roles that are filled. So, yeah, that, you know, like Yelena said, so nobody can fly, which was foreshadowing to Bob, but it's like everybody just punches and shoots. Okay, great. So, yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I love the comedic moments. It was definitely a fun movie, but yeah, there were some things that made you go, "Wait, what?" I realize this is a comic book movie, but come on. At least, make it connect, make it make sense. So, I believe that is all I have for this video. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.